What conspiracy theory do you fully believe is true? Can Laytham Enron faked his own death so he can escape the US and not serve his time for the fraud he was convicted of? I believe he is live and well, living off the $300 he earned from Enron. I was going to a mega church that kept expanding in a poor part of town, buying up all the property around it. There was a laundromat that was a holdout, wouldn't sell for anything. One night, that laundromat burned down. The church graciously helped them clean up the site, then they finally sold. It's not a stretch at all to see what really happened. This theory by a Redditor which was later removed and the user was site-wide banned for reasons I don't know. Robert Kardashian destroyed evidence that would have convicted O.J. He was handed a Louis Vuitton garment bag by O.J.'s assistant right as O.J. returned from Chicago. None of the cops paid any attention to him as he walked away with the bag. When the bag theory was discovered a month later, Kardashian claimed to have lost it. That Disney thought that Clinton would win the 2016 election, so they had already completed the animatronic for the Hall of Presidents, but then Trump won, so they sloppily altered the Clinton animatronic to look sort of like him. Edit https://i.thread.it/jnt2 and 5sj6vm51.jpg. Be the judge for yourself. My mom has a theory that whenever a contestant on Wheel of Fortune gets greedy and spins, when the puzzle is clearly easily solvable, they manipulate the wheel to land on bankrupt. Also, whenever there is a good-looking girl on, she believes they manipulate the game so that girl wins. Edit. Thanks for all the replies. I didn't think this many people would take it this seriously, but I have heard of the quiz show scandal. That's why I don't really believe these theories. It's more of a fun, harmless talking point when it does happen. Can't speak for my mom though, she may truly believe it. The one about mattress stores being money laundering fronts. Even though they're not really cash businesses, it is strange that you'll see 2 or 3 giant mattress stores all near each other. Yet how often does the average person buy a mattress? Once a decade. I guess the more conventional explanation is that the markup on mattresses is so insanely high that you only need to sell a few per week to make money. I still think there's something fishy going on in those stores though. I don't know. My ex-wife was addicted to custom picture frames, and I'm not joking. When we divorced, I got the only 2 that were from IKEA and one nice one that was a certificate sorta thing from when I was in the military. I'm actually not bitter about it. I got the best photos. Edit. Forgot that my sister would get them a lot too. She is really good at needlepoint, which might sound dumb, but she is actually really good at needlepoint. She doesn't sell them but makes them for gifts and always has them framed. I have one of those too, but it's about my wedding, so now it's in storage. This is a super niche one, but I believe Jean Calment was a fraud. She did not live to 122. Jean Calment had a daughter, Yvonne, who apparently died at age 36. She later moved in with the daughter's husband and helped raise her grandchild. Or did she? Maybe the mother is the one who died, and the daughter took up her name. When she became more well-known in her later years, most people who saw her claimed she looked decades younger than her age. There are 10 people who have lived more than 117 years, and 9 of them never made it to 120. Yet here is this one crazy outlier that outlived all the rest by 2 years. I literally don't believe it. When these theories have been raised, a simple way to prove them wrong has been suggested: a quick dig, a small DNA sample, and compare the DNA against the known relatives from Yvonne's father's side of the family. If it's Jean, then there will be far less of a match. They were distant cousins. If it's Yvonne, there will be a strong match. The family refused to check. I once saw in one of those YouTube compilation videos one of these posts where a comment said that they were convinced these posts come up every now and then for Big Brother to check on the popularity of conspiracy theories, and now, seeing this here, I kinda have to agree. I've been watching old unsolved mysteries on lately, And just yesterday they had a story about a guy in Mexico that died in jail less than 2 hours after being locked up. They claimed he hanged himself with his shirt. One of the commentators literally said that hanging yourself is the oldest jail murder cover-up ever. This was over 30 years ago, too. I immediately thought of Epstein. I'm the type to seek out anti-conspiracy stuff online, and it makes way more sense that he was assassinated than suicide. He was supposed to be on suicide watch, but that's how it supposedly ended. Question mark. Right. That there are still boys' bodies buried under an apartment building lawn by John Wayne Gacy at Miami Exilston in Chicago. A couple months ago someone uploaded a new mini docuseries on YouTube about serial killer John Wayne Gacy called Devil in Disguise, which was promptly removed from YouTube, but I still found the full series, perhaps not through the NBC Peacock app. Anyways, holy fuck, it's driving me bananas. There are reports of Gacy doing yard work at night, of digging ditches around the building, of filling the ditches overnight instead of during the day. A man in the documentary was about 8 years old at the time, and Gacy paid him to do little things like take out the apartment building trash. He lived across the street from the building, and his bedroom window happened to face the lawn where a lot of ditch digging had been happening. He was the one that said they had been filled overnight. He described exactly what shape the ditches were. As an adult, he drew a map for the police who were being pressured into searching the property about where he remembered the ditches being. He said, "There are 2 places you don't need to dig. One of them is where this bush is, because the bush was there before I moved there, and the roots are dense, so he couldn't have dug it up and put someone there and put the bush back there." Anyways, so in 2013 the police finally searched the grounds using ground-penetrating radar, which can give a fairly accurate hit without digging. In the documentary it is shown that the police barely checked the grounds, and they checked the 2 places the now adult man said no bodies could be there, which is another reason why I cannot believe at all that the police actually searched the grounds. It's like, here's another conspiracy. Okay, the Chicago Police Department find bodies. Okay, then what? People involved in the original case are still alive. Gacy was probably part of a bigger sex traffic ring which they did not investigate. Politicians, police, and other powerful people were probably involved in the sex traffic ring of teenage boys and young men. Why else not follow any leads on it back then? So some of these people who were part of that original case are still alive. Old as F, but alive, and for some reason that shit matters. Additionally, if they found bodies on the apartment grounds, the amount of money that the city would have to come up with and also ask state feds for to buy the apartment complex to completely fuck it up, pay off everyone to move out, then the money to pay all the investigators, engineers, scientists, etc. to get people out of the ground, to demolish and rip stuff apart, to DNA test the found bodies, etc. 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 In the documentary they show you how much people, hours and money went into searching Gacy's house. I don't imagine the Chicago police want more bad press dating from the 70s, with a shit ton of their cash flow going to this case again. That many restaurants are in fact fronts for some hidden shady business. There is a restaurant close to where I live and I often see various staff going outside, sitting outside taking a break or smoking, but I have never, as in never, in 8+ years seen a single customer walking in the restaurant or sitting inside. Boggles the mind, really. The elitist pedophile ring surrounding Epstein. The fact that several members on both sides of the political aisle in the US had strong ties to him, and the reason he was in gaol. I think his murder really was a cover-up by the elites to protect their reputation and grasp on power. It's far beyond Epstein didn't kill himself territory and deeply into the highest caste is orchestrating mob hits territory. Big companies use Reddit and other social media to normalize shady behavior. It seems every time news breaks about a company doing something shady, the top comments on Reddit are always along the lines of, "Well done, we've known this for years." So instead of outrage, the news are met with apathy, and there's a feeling that you can't change the system anyway. My friend has a theory that all the major soda companies are going to slowly over time change the recipe of their normal with sugar varieties to be the same recipe as the sugar-free ones. Then one day they'll launch, for example, Coca-Cola Premium, now with real sugar at a higher price than what it used to be. I am convinced this will happen. The companies would make so much more money off of the sugar variants than they do now because of sugar taxes, and they would still make the same amount of money on the ones that are sugar-free or diet or whatever. They could literally just put different sweeteners in the different kinds of Coke and they would technically be allowed to sell as different products. All that's happening is that they're upping the price of normal Coke and disguising it as a new product. US politicians intentionally keep us fighting amongst ourselves about our political parties to distract us from the real issues and keep themselves in power. I don't think the whole two-party system is a hoax, but I think the politicians don't actually give a shit. They just want power and money, and they will fake any viewpoint to get paid. The US military secretly buys massive amounts of glitter as a countermeasure against enemy radar systems. One of the top posts of all time in our Unresolved Mysteries discusses an article where an executive at a glitter manufacturer is interviewed. When asked about the company's largest customer, the interviewee goes to great lengths to avoid so much as discussing the industry that customer is a part of, not to mention naming an actual company. But along the way, she gives a few interesting clues. The comment I linked to above suggests that the military may be behind this. The glitter-like material known as chaff https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/chaff_countermeasure is well known for being dropped out of planes in large clouds, where the reflective particles disrupt radar systems. I am absolutely convinced that chaff is nothing more than glitter. The Wikipedia article on chaff mentions that most military aircraft and warships are equipped with chaff dispensing systems. So keeping the majority of the US military's planes and ships equipped with chaff would require quite a lot of whatever material it actually is. And the US military is pretty much the only entity I can think of that would justify the level of stonewalling demonstrated in that interview. The makers of the Sonic movie made the horrible design on purpose to take over the internet for free advertisement, then changed the design to be so much better, and of course everyone heard about it. It convinced potential viewers that they care for their product and decided to support the movie. They tweeted saying that they hear us and want us to enjoy it, so they just willingly changed the whole thing, like that would ever happen. It all seems oddly possible to me. Actually, I can help here, which is weird. My dad is a commercial real estate broker, and the company that makes the buns for those sandwiches is one of his clients. He just helped them buy a new factory, but up till then they really did not have the facilities to create buns that were needed to keep up with the crazy demand that manifested for that sandwich. Not a conspiracy, just a supply side issue. A friend of mine's grandpa went pro for a few fights back in the day. He said in his experience he saw no outright fixing of fights, but fights were set up in a way that there was no doubt about the winner. Like for a fighter's pro debut, they would be matched against a guy with a 5-0 record with all wins by knockout. The kicker is the fighter making his debut is like a Golden Glove boxer, and the guy with the 5-0 record has no real skill but hits like a truck. On paper the guy with the record has the advantage and gets bet on, but people who are in the know can bet on the underdog and make a good profit. Basically rigging fights in all but name. Probably not as viable now since he did his few pro fights before the internet was a thing. I'm pro-nuclear power, and have been for a long time. To me it's clearly a big oil conspiracy. Nuclear power is actually super safe, way safer than oil or coal. The media has demonized that Chernobyl was a result of extremely poor planning, with the cooling rods being installed sideways. The deaths of Fukushima are attributed to the actual evacuation. No one died from 3 Mile Island. How many people have died from oil or coal? And yet nuclear power is the scary one. The US government funded the expansion of the NFL to get football more popular and get high school-aged men conditioned for the military. Forgot to add, the pro football saw its biggest expansion in the early 60s with the creation of the AFL, which was in perfect time for kids growing up with football to join the military during Vietnam. The vast majority of conspiracy theories are created by the government and megacorporations and other big wealthy interests to distract from actual horror. The canon conspiracy nonsense about Oprah and Tom Hanks and Biden being sent to Guantanamo Bay right as all these powerful people, including heads of state, got linked to Epstein is just too convenient. All the alien stuff in the 50s served to distract from our spy plane construction. 9/11 conspiracies distracted from the fact the building was poorly built with way less rebar than it should have had but was passed anyway by mobbed-up inspectors for decades. JFK conspiracies are rooted in making you sound like goofball when you talk about the very real history of assassination by the CIA of leftist leaders. If you hear a conspiracy theory, it's because someone powerful is trying to distract from and make you sound insane when you bring up the real horror happening in the world. Sarah Palin claimed to have given birth to her fourth child after her water broke and she got on a plane from Texas to Wasilla, Alaska. It was 24 hours and she passed major city hospitals to give birth in private at her sleepy backwater city. They won't let women in their third trimester get on a plane, let alone after their water breaks. It was actually her daughter Bristol who gave birth out of wedlock and she covered it up. 1. The uncanny valley. People are afraid of human-like things that aren't human, which suggests that at some point in our history we had a reason to be afraid of something that looked human but wasn't. 2. The dark forest theory. In a forest at night it's filled with sounds of nightlife, insects, birds and other creatures, but when there's a predator it's silent because everything is hiding. What if the reason we haven't been contacted by anything in space is because everything is hiding from something big, something dangerous? And my favorite 3, the dark forest and the uncanny valley combined. We have already been visited by whatever scares the rest of the universe, and it's the reason why we are afraid of things that look human but aren't. That Yuri Gagarin was not the first person in space but just the first person to come back alive, given the Soviet Union's history of playing fast and loose with safety in their efforts to appear strong and beat the West, as well as how secretive they were. It's quite possible that another unknown cosmonaut got into orbit before Gagarin but didn't survive re-entry or died due to some other issue. There's still some horrible shit going down in Hollywood. Obviously, but not just Hollywood but in celebritydom anywhere, authors, musicians etc. The Pizzagate, regeneration by blood of children conspiracy or whatever the fuck that was supposed to be, is just a cover to make people who are questioning if certain rich people are pedos, look like fucking mental cases. There's some truth behind the lies, and I think it's dated back years and is still going strong unfortunately. Yes, I believe there's some celebs who tried to bring the truth to light and they have been conveniently bumped off over the years. It was a shock when the _ committed suicide. They never showed any signs, not to make dismiss of those who actually committed suicide of course, but I'm referring to some who clearly wouldn't have done so. Number because the Pizzagate part is a lie, to throw you off. One could ponder is _ insert a kind nice celeb _ pedo. The truth is potentially and names would probably shock you, but the conspiracy is now you seem like fucking weirdo, so stop believing in that shit. I seriously believe this one about the Van Diesel memes. Everyone hates them, they aren't funny, they get posted to Instagram and have 100 comments all from bots. I don't even know anyone that likes those movies or has seen one of them in like 10 years. I don't understand it at all. If it is a marketing ploy, it's a pretty good one. I mean, I don't know how that makes anyone see the movie, but I at least know another one is coming out which I would really rather not. That our phone microphones are constantly on and constantly recording, then that information is used to put ads on our social media, other websites based on conversations we have with other people. Example, my kids and I went to a friend's house. They played with our friend's kids and showed me these popper fidget toy things. I have never seen them before in my life. I had a brief conversation with the kids' mom about them, and then today, 2 days later, I have ads for them all over my Facebook and they are suggested to me on Amazon. I never looked them up, never seen or used one, but there they are. This has happened several times with things I have spoken to my husband about and suddenly saw ads, videos, posts, and buying suggestions related to it. The Richat structure, aka the Eye of the Sahara, is the site of Atlantis. The dimensions Plato describes are the same as the rings, with mountains to the north and an outlet to the south, as he described. There's fresh water at the center as well. Bright Insight is the name of the YouTube channel that I first heard about it from. George Lucas had a hand in creating our prequel memes. I don't think it was literally him behind the desk doing it or something like that, but I think he hired a really hip PR team or something to try and find a way people would think of the prequels more fondly, and they tried out a bunch of different things, and one of them was making memes of the prequels. I don't know. I mean, people really flipped on those movies hard, from hating them to loving them in this ironic or even legitimate way. I say this after seeing the sequel memes start up and try a similar thing, but with far less success.